Hello, Garland, Nixon here, making adjustments at the last minute. We're hanging out with Matt Weinglass. Let's talk. Hello, Garland, Nixon here. It's Thursday, and we're hanging out with, Wednesday, hanging out with Matt Weinglass.
All right.
All right. We got a lot to talk about today, but first, a word from Keir Starmer. All right. Now we can get something accomplished. Now that we have got this show started off right. Matt is a writer and director and actor and producer and all of the good stuff in good old Hollywood. Well, what used to be good old Hollywood. Now it's Hollywoke, I guess, isn't it, Matt Weinglass?
Yes, we are calling it Hollywoke these days. We also have other nicknames for it too, Garland, like Zio Wood. And,
yeah.
And now it's like AI Wood now as well. So there's a lot of problems, and it certainly hasn't been a sustainable model for us, especially those of us who came here with ambitions, take on the world, and it's just the entertainment model is completely changed. But we cover that on our show, The Homeless Left, which is a more honest way, I believe, these days to communicate and to reach out to viewers and audience members and give them something to think about, which is why I got involved in the arts in the first place, which is to give people conversations and open up their mind to new ideas. So we do that in this space now as Hollywood is crumbling.
Absolutely. And, people see, let me see something. A lot of people see the books, all of the stuff that I've read and my connection to Paul Robeson. And one of the things that I think, what was his book? Or The Artist as Revolutionary. And he's got all of these, let me find one. He did a lot of quotes about the importance of being an artist. Here, example. Here's some Paul Robeson great quotes. Artists are the gatekeepers of truth. Artists are the radical voice of civilization. Every artist, every scientist, every writer must decide now where he stands. The artist must take sides. He must elect to fight for freedom or for slavery. I've made my choice. I had no alternative. Sounds like you, Matt Weinglass. But that's a fact. It's like when you look around, and I think I felt like that way during COVID. Yeah. That's one of the times where, like, you know what, you look at everything going on and you got to make a choice, and you have to say, do I go along with what's the go along, knowing that, like, especially for God's sake, you're in Hollywood, that I have friends that are going to condemn me and call me every kind of anti-vaxxer, conspiracy theorist, lunatic in the world, or do I just go along with something, that I don't believe in and I don't agree with and I have questions about,
I think we're wired this way. So, in particular, art forms, like I would say, as an actor, you're the most susceptible to this kind of manipulation to actually go along with it and actually not lose sleep at night, because you are trained to sell yourself, right? So how does that work? You walk into a room and you're told, get down on all fours and bark like a dog if you want to be in this Will Smith movie, and you go, okay, where do I go? Tell me where to go. So there's this. So when COVID happens, right? It's the same. You're already conditioned. Like, where do I go? Where do I stand? How many masks do I put on? Tell me what to do to get the job. That's it. And so it's this, you lose the quote you read, you lose that part of the artist. There's an old quote from Jack Nicholson, and I had this I did a conservatory program in Santa Barbara, the BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts program at UCSB. And there was this conundrum when you come in there, this idea that you're going to train to do something that you are conforming to do. Everyone's going to basically follow the same script, right? It's in a world where you should be finding your voice. So how does that make any sense? It's a total contradiction. And Jack Nicholson says you can't be in a conservatory as an artist unless you don't want to be an artist anymore. Therefore, it negates the conservatory for the artist. You're sacrificing that art part of it to conform to the thing, to get to the goal, which is to, make it big, lights, cameras, action, that whole thing. So you lose that artist part of you.
And the last one I'll read, Paul Robeson. He had so many great quotes about being an artist. He said, "Through my singing and acting and speaking, I want to make freedom ring. Maybe I can touch people's hearts better than I can their minds with the common struggle of the common man." Paul Robeson. And you know, that was great. And you see what happened. He paid a price for it. They took his passport for 10 years, mistreated him, calling him every kind of a Russian spy and everything else just to destroy him. But, you know, it's good to know. Remember Ed Asner, another great guy. There were so many people there were a lot of people from Hollywood that stood up and fought, and they should be recognized. By the way, speaking of people from Hollywood that can't stand up and fight because they don't exist, what the heck is this with this new AI actress that's being cast? Cast?
Yeah, this is really bad, Garland. And those of you who haven't heard of this yet, this character, it's a character they created. Her name is Tilly Norwood, and she's completely fake. Nobody was trying to say she was real. I think the idea was this is where our art form has taken itself to. And the idea is that, yes, casting directors and studios are getting excited about this new model of performance, because this character of Tilly Norwood can basically fit whatever role they need to fit. And they check this thing checks other boxes as well, not just you'll see her. And I say that reluctantly, her, like as it's an actual person. It's a thing. It's an it. You'll see it in a music video. You'll see it in a promo for a company, and, you know, basically doing a commercial. You don't have to pay commercial actors anymore, because you can just have these robots, these its show up and do the performance. So they're not trying to pretend it's real, but they're showing us this is the model that the casting directors and studios are getting excited about, because guess what? They get to save a lot of money. This thing doesn't have to eat. This thing isn't going to complain about anything. You don't have to pay an agent. I mean, the list is a mile long of how much money they're going to save. And so that's the conflict we have here. You have SAG, you know, the actors union, standing up and saying this is wrong, and we expected them to do that, and they are fighting this type of thing. But I don't think this is going anywhere anytime soon, Garland. But yes, actors right now are furious, as they should be, and they should be being loud about this for sure. I'll add this in too. If people haven't considered this idea, this is something we should have expected, but also understand we were already at Tilly Norwood before she arrived. We were already there because A-listers are packaged just like this. They're handpicked, they're put together, they're slapped on a screen, and we're given a backstory. Tilly Norwood has a backstory. Believe me, you guys can look it up. She's got a personality. Everything is contrived. So we already have that. What is so I ask people listening right now, what is the difference between a Tilly Norwood and a Scarlett Johansson? You haven't met either one of these women, because they're not really people you meet. They're people that are packaged for you to make you think you have a connection with them. And then you go buy your popcorn, you go watch them perform. So I ask you, what is the actual difference?
Yeah, the only the only difference between Tilly Norwood and so many other actresses is she was never in the IDF. You know, I mean, most of the time these extras, the other part of it is this. Here's what people don't get. I understand art, right? Oftentimes some of and you know this being in Hollywood, the best stuff was like accidental. It was like during filming, somebody did something that they weren't planning, and it ended up being hilarious. It ended up being brilliant. And afterwards, people were like, wow, what about the scene in so-and-so? Wasn't that awesome? And they're like, oh, that was never planned. So-and-so slipped and fell down. And he did this and he cursed and he said that. And that was the funniest scene in the movie, right? So you have art has to have spontaneity. It doesn't have spontaneity. What was his name? The guy that did Mork and Mindy.
Robin Williams.
Yeah. Robin Williams would just do stuff, and they were like people would just start laughing, and he just started making stuff up, and it just whatever came out. And how many people have you heard? Denzel Washington. I remember him talking about that, thing about Pelican Bay or whatever. I'll have you, whatever in Pelican Bay. That just came out. Mm-hmm. He's just doing something, and then somebody shouts, and these people have like this natural. We're talking about people with talent. You can't invent that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you never get that with AI.
Yeah,
AI it's clean, it's sterile, it's packaged, and they will say whatever is supposed to be said in a digital way, but you won't get that clean stuff that you just get sometimes.
yeah, no, that's a great point. As AI develops, we might get to a place where it can pretend to have these aha moments or things that were not supposed to go the way they went, and those will also be part of the ones and zeros in the program. So who knows how far you can go? But right now, you're right. You're not going to get those moments, Robin Williams moments. Bryan Cranston has story. You guys know the Breaking Bad. You know that he has lines that were supposed to be delivered one way, and he went against the director and did it another way, and they were like, "Holy crap! We never saw it coming." That's the take we're using. And those moments, yes, you cannot expect, an AI is not going to be able to do that right now, but who knows? I mean, we might get to a place where they actually could do that. And I don't know what we're going to do at that point, but the studios aren't going to miss that right now. They just want to slap together a blueprint, the cookie cutter script. We know that the writers are suffering. We know all these other detailed jobs are suffering because you have a cookie cutter formula. You have like 25 plots that get recycled every time, and you're just not going to get another Walter White that's going to go leaps and bounds outside of what the page told you to do. And the studios are not really going to care. The question is, are the audience going to care? Are they going to care? And that's, I think, has yet to be determined.
Yeah, it's like listening to music, yes, you can have this really good, whether it was CDs or this really sweet, clean music that is, absolutely perfection in every way, right? A buddy of mine is into tube amps, and he has these tube amps. And the music is warm, man. This guy puts on jazz. You go in there and you listen to it. He's got like these speakers from like the 60s and 70s that he spent like all of this money for these old speakers and had them redone in every way. And when you listen to the tube amps with these 1970s, you can just sit there like, oh my God, is this music or is this heaven, right? And what he said was, it has to do with the new stuff has no distortion, but the distortion is at certain frequencies, and that's what makes it warm. You know what I mean? It's like and even the people that invented this stuff never planned for it to be like that. It's just the way it comes out because it's a tube amp or whatever, and it does this and that. Yeah. That is it's humanity, is natural stuff. Yeah. This crap is sterile, and I suspect that it'll never, it'll never do. You'll never replicate it. I'm not interested in it myself. If I saw a movie starring Tilly Norwood, no thanks. I don't watch half of that crap anyway now. Yeah, I know I ain't watching that.
Well, however bad it gets, I can safely predict that the last medium that will still be considered human for us in the arts, as far as the storytelling mediums go, will be theater. That'll be what's left. Audience, no matter how many you can get to come to see all AI, CGI, everything, no actors in a movie theater, you're not going to win over the theater audience. They go to the theater, whether it's musicals or any type, of opera or anything, just straight theater. They're there to see human beings on a stage, and they're there to see an orchestra pit with human beings playing instruments and a human conductor conducting the instrument. So that's something I think will be the last hope for humanity as far as storytelling goes in those mediums. But I don't know if I'm as optimistic as you are, Garland, about the film medium, because I think that that could slowly get taken away from us little by little.
Anyway, so let's go back to some speaking of things that are fake and false and right in front of our eyes. Let's talk about the latest Charlie Kirk, the latest story about the Charlie Kirk fable about a quick change artist with a less than normal powerful 30-06 guns that the round just like goes below your skin. And anyway, what's the latest you're hearing about the Charlie Kirk fable?
Well, we know the precedent that the FBI has set from the beginning, telling us that any criticism, Kash Patel tells us, any criticism of Israel, any conspiracy theorist, anything like that is considered hate speech, and we're going to do something about it. Now, he's not able to work with the ADL as closely as he thought he was going to be, so that's a good sign. But we do know people are getting arrested, or they're not being let into the country. We have a latest report that there are at least 6 people that have had their visas revoked over comments made about Charlie Kirk. And so those people are not coming into the country because of social media posting. Not so sure what those posts were. We're not seeing what they were. They're saying, well, they were celebrating his death, but we don't know. I can't really find those posts, but we know that there is legal ramifications for what you put out in the internet. So of course we have to be careful. Obviously nobody in our circles are celebrating anything. What we're trying to do is get to the bottom of it, right? But you see the smears of Candace Owen, you see the smears of people that are trying to do actual journalism and look at this stuff. I know when you brought to my attention, Garland, we need to look at some of the work James Lee is doing. It's pretty remarkable. He's going down that. If you want to lead that in, I think he found something on Google Trends.
Yeah, what he did was, here's what's interesting. He looked at Google Trends for what people were searching, and he found that the day before Charlie Kirk's assassination, some people, in the DC area, what can the CIA is in the DC area. The Israeli embassies in the AIPAC headquarters in DC area. But at any rate, just throwing that out there, the day before, they were searching Tyler Robinson, and they were searching the Lossy Center, which is where he supposedly shot from, right? This is before the murder. Here's what's interesting. So the first guy that did this, he covered this stuff. He did these Google Trend search, and he showed the video of, like, from his screen where I did the Google Trend search. This is what I found. Look at this right here. They were searching it beforehand, right? When he came back the next day and they went to search it, it was gone from Google Trends.
Yeah.
And I've noticed something. YouTube does that. A lot of these places do that. If you catch something and you're like, look at this, when you come back, they'll burn it. It's gone.
Yeah, you got to screenshot that. We have to get used to doing this more and more regularly now because they're on to us. But yeah, that's great that we got that information. And anybody that maybe hasn't been paying attention and this is the first time they're going, that sounds weird. Yeah, it is weird. And it's something that that Kash Patel and the FBI are not going to do anything about. You know that. So it's up to us. We got to get this information out there. We got to screenshot this stuff. September 9th, if you're in DC and you're looking up Tyler James Robinson and the Lossy Center, there is an absolute connection. That is not a coincidence. I mean, we're not saying it's 100% fact, but we're saying if you're not if people in positions of power are not looking into that, there's a reason they're not looking into that. They didn't get lazy. They didn't just not hear about it. They didn't run out of time and they'll get to it later. There's a reason they're not telling us this stuff. And this is that on itself is another red flag. The fact that we're giving this information out to people, Candace Owen, James Lee, so many others are doing, well, not actually that many people, but a lot of people are doing this work. FBI is not following up on it. And that in and of itself is a red flag that somebody does not want us to know about this stuff. So yes, screenshot the crap out of this stuff if you guys find it on your own, because we need to help each other with this is, citizen journalism. That's what this is.
Yeah. And in fact, this was a way back, and I still got my videos are still up. A long time ago, one time my views and everything dropped by 40% in 1 month, 40%. And I went on and I checked my Google Analytics, and it said the reason it dropped by 46% was, and then it showed search results from YouTube down 39%, recommendations from YouTube down 39%. And all the numbers were things that YouTube directs people from me, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing else had changed. So I did a video and I said, look at it right here in Google Analytics, right here. They say the reason Garland is down 40% is because of all things that we did. They shut me down, right? I came back the next day and checked Google Analytics. It had changed. The reasoning had changed. Well, the reason was yesterday it said this. Today it said, apparently you've done different videos that aren't as appealing to other people. I did another video and I said, look at this. Look what it said yesterday. Exact same thing. I exposed them and they changed it. So apparently, now, first of all, people should probably, I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, but Google hired a bunch of people from Unit 8200 in Israel, and they bought this it's a cybersecurity firm in Israel that's staffed by people from Unit 8200. So it's clear that Google is an outcrop of, of Israeli intelligence. And when this guy revealed, now the next question you would have to ask is this: if this is just happenstance, why would Google go in there and scrub it? I mean, if it's just Google, I would think if I was Google, if I'm Google and I looked and saw that, I'd say, holy shit, quick, call the FBI, right? Hey, FBI, guess what? I think we got some great evidence for you so we can catch the killers. Because everybody wants to catch the killers. We love Charlie Kirk. We got to get the killers. FBI, here's everything. And guess what else we can do? We can even tell you exactly where they came from. FBI, we can point you to the computers that were doing the searches because they can, can't they? But instead of doing that, they just scrubbed it. Imagine that.
You're describing a world that is totally distant from the reality we're living in, Garland. But I got excited for a moment when you said that, because I was just imagining, what if we lived in that world where everybody actually worked together to solve these puzzles, and like we did it with everything. We did it, well, all the stuff we've lived through, the 9/11 and Lahaina fires, or anything. October 7th is a great one. I mean, it's like, why the hell are we not all just saying, hey, look at this, piece this all together? What actually happened? No, it's the opposite. The world we live in is when institutions and people in power do everything they can to suppress information that we find. So it's a constant battle of information. It's a constant battle of good journalism versus protecting of power, which is called propaganda, and censorship, right? So that's what we're up against every day. And I wish that more people can wake up to this and understand that the label of conspiracy theorist obviously was created to deflect people who are doing actual work and asking the right questions.
100%. All right, let's talk about, I did want to get another update. I know you keep up with the Maha stuff, and God, last time we talked about it, Trump was in the Oval Office with yeah, this was my buddy. He's the CEO of Pfizer. They did good work. They did great things during the pandemic. And I'm like, well, if you're a mortician, maybe they did some pretty good work. But for the most of us, the rest of us out here, we're not so thrilled about it. Here's what I think. Though, I got my issues with RFK Jr. regarding, Palestine. Sure, we all do. But I think that when it comes to that whole vaccine stuff and all of that, he probably wants to do something, but it looks like he's getting his hands tied. It looks like, Trump, I'm just saying, might not be keeping his word. Anyway, your thoughts on the latest on Maha?
Well, I think the deal, and if people, just to remind people, there was a $70 billion deal that went down with Pfizer. Albert Bourla was invited to the White House again, and this time it was to close a deal with the Maha team, and everybody was in that room. And as you alluded to, there's a lot of stuff RFK Jr. has been forced to do or not allowed to do, and this is the case. I would say he was forced to be in that room and put a kind of a half smile on his face while this guy gets celebrated, a guy that was supposed to be, we were supposed to go after him. He was supposed to, there was supposed to be justice served. Here's a guy who's admittingly, lying about his product, pushing his product on the masses. And we know that the product has hurt a lot of people. RFK Jr. ran a campaign on, we will bring justice to vaccine injured people. Again, I'm just saying what he's saying. I'm not talking, we're not talking about vaccine injuries. We're just saying that was the promise, right? So to see him standing just a couple feet away from Albert Bourla as Trump is calling him the greatest guy, he puts the needs of people over his own profit, which is all complete BS. We know this is BS. It's the fact that he has to do this, signs this deal, with the $70 billion deal. And then RFK has to just go right along with it. And what does this mean? So what does this deal mean? I've heard a lot of people that are, and I think Maha is split. I do think it's split. I think there are people that are holding on to the idea that Trump is playing. We talk about, 60 chess, 70 chess, and that as a businessman, and I've heard this argument, and it's an argument. I don't agree with it, but the argument is that Trump, as a businessman, brought the guy in that you're not allowed to sue, right? Because you can't sue the guy. So you might as well bring him in, get him to write the check. So to be clear, so people don't realize this, if they didn't, the $70 billion is a check that Albert Bourla is writing to Trump. Okay. So you're not using our taxpayer money. Great. So there's a lot of people that go, see, he's smart. He's taking his money. Well, let's be clear what that means. He's taking his money into an investment where he's going to make money off of that investment. So it's a deal where you're awarding somebody who should be in jail and you're giving them an opportunity to make more money. And you're validating that product some more. Did you notice, Garland, the timing of after this deal going down, that within days, Trump's doctor is tweeting out or putting on Instagram, letting out the world know that Trump is up to date on his booster, his COVID jab. Everything's good to go. Perfect health. There's a reason that happened then. That was a signal to Albert Bourla to say, hey, we're backing your product still without saying we are, because people are going to follow Trump's lead. And here's your investments in good hands, and we're going to make you some money, and you're going to still make money off that jab. And mRNA is not going anywhere.
Yeah. And ultimately what we get is this. Notwithstanding anything that RFK Jr. may or may have not have wanted, Trump was a fraud the whole time. Yet what he wanted RFK Jr.'s votes, the people who believed in RFK Jr. There was I think, what was it, 5% in Pennsylvania, and he had like 5% in Ohio and stuff like that. Trump looked at those numbers. I can get those numbers. Sure, you can get whatever you want. But of course, just like, let's move, if we move real quickly to the so-called peace deal. 1 minute Trump says, oh, all is great, all the boost peace deal. The next minute, Hamas will have to disarm and we'll have to do it violently. Well, I thought you said the war was over. The conflict wasn't no war, but I thought you said the conflict was over, but we'll do it violently. Well, then the conflict isn't over. And he said, we'll do it violently. So now you're saying what? The U.S. military is going to go in and finish what Hamas started? The Zionists started? Your thoughts on the state of the, I got to have air quotes, peace deal?
I mean, this thing's a big mess, Garland. This is a big mess. And I'm going to start with this. What we know as supporters of the Free Palestine movement, what we know is that Free Palestine has always been bigger than ceasefire now. That was one of the original hashtags, ceasefire now. And I think a lot of people woke up to the fact that that's just one little tiny sliver of a step. The point is it's ending the occupation. That's what it's about. So when we see this deal getting done, I know there's a lot of people confused right now. Why are the Palestinian protesters getting ridiculed and bombarded right now with insults? Where are you? Why are you not celebrating? Well, there's a lot of reasons not to celebrate. One, you just alluded to, the fact that Trump baits and switches these things, and he's not the only one. Netanyahu is the king of baiting and switching. We know that Israel's history of breaking ceasefires is like every single one of them they break. So what exactly are we celebrating, especially when that language can change? We look at this thing and we see that there are holes in it. We know there are holes because Israel admits they are. They always tell the truth in Hebrew, right, Garland? They love to lie to us in English. They tell the truth in Hebrew, and they told us as soon as that deal was put together, they said, hey, wink, wink, everybody back in Israel, we put some loopholes in there. We can't wait to break this thing. And the breaking of the thing means the punishment is, well, first you blame it on Hamas. You say Hamas is the one that broke it. The mainstream media is going along with that. That's complete garbage. We know that it's Israel that has broken this thing. And now what that sets up is the precedent, as Trump is alluding to, the violent response. That's the response because Hamas dropped the ball. They didn't give back the dead bodies. That's ridiculous. It makes no sense. Anybody looking that has to know that doesn't make any sense. Why would you give back 20 remaining hostages and then say, oh, you know what? We're going to just keep these dead bodies for whatever reason. You know that they can't give the bodies back. Israel knows they can't give the bodies back because they're buried under all the rubble that Israel created. And they knew that going in. So this was a big setup in order to now inflict the response. As we say, it's a violent response. They're saying it out loud. And this is not an actual ceasefire. This is where one side gets to call it a ceasefire. The other side gets to say, oh, in order for you guys to stop murdering us, we have to completely surrender. Well, that's not a deal. That's the thing you guys were saying the whole time. So you're not doing the deal. and this part is really hard for people to understand that have been pro-Zionist, and they don't see that this is a manipulation and a complete hack of this entire thing. And we saw coming. So again, back to the protesters getting mocked and bullied right now. Stand your ground. Don't make excuses. Don't say we'll get to the celebration. So there's nothing to celebrate. That is the answer to the question. There's nothing to celebrate. We will continue to be vocal about this illegal occupation, and there's nothing to be happy about. And until there are actual Nuremberg trials, people going to jail, then there'll be something to celebrate. And that, as we know, Garland, nobody ever goes to jail in these situations. Nobody.
Yeah, that's a fact. You know, what we're saying is there needs to be justice, right? And justice is a lot of things. Look, justice is the Palestinians that suffer need to be made whole. They need to be compensated. They need to be paid back. Their stuff needs to be rebuilt. Their homes need to be rebuilt, and they need to be given financial support and everything. And these people have been, you know, civilians illegally attacked, murdered, killed, families mangled, people, you know, mentally. Can you imagine if you lived through something like this, which is still going on? You know how damaged you are mentally. For the rest of your life, kids, both of their parents killed, all of these people with arms and legs smashed off, blinded, mangled, injured in every kind of way. It's the most horrific thing imaginable. And the idea that they can just wake up one day and say, okay, it's over. And the only reason, in my opinion, that there's a number of things. I think the reason that there's any so-called peace deal is there was all this heat on Trump. His coalition's falling apart. The Charlie Kirk thing, people are hip to it, and they're like, come on, Israel, you're going to tell me you aren't involved? It looks awful suspicious. Everything's falling apart for them. The people are taken to the streets in Europe and Italy and stuff like that. I think it got so difficult for them that they stopped it, not for any other reason other than because domestically and politically, the price was getting to be too high. And I've said for a long time, like the first of this year is when the primaries really kick in, and they were not going to go into primary season with this thing going on because they know that they are going to be primaried anyway. But if it was going on during primaries, they'd get wiped out. And I hope they get wiped out anyway during primaries. So people can see that it doesn't matter. So people can see that when a bunch of people come in and they say, okay, we're going to vote against Israel, that the government will say, oh, yep, you sure did. You voted against Israel, but we're doing it anyway. The people will see the truth about this. But I don't think that I have not seen anything that even where there's any admission in the seats of power that they did anything wrong. If anything, look, well, let's go to this. They're buying TikTok and CBS and Larry Ellison. Your thoughts on all of that crap?
Well, right away on TikTok, we can see, and this spills over to Twitter, by the way. They're already doing, I mean, we know Elon's in a precarious situation, right? Because he wants his free speech, but he also has to support the Zionists behind him. So here we are on Twitter trying to figure it out. TikTok's taking a nosedive with these, $7,000 per TikTok post, and then the people getting removed. I mean, people that can't even use their TikTok account anymore, and all they were doing was anti-war, anti-genocide posts. They're done. They can't even post. But on Twitter, I think that what's so infuriating to see right now, like when I look at my feed right now, I'm getting more pro-Zionist than I've ever gotten before. So when we talk about this ridiculing of protesters, I'm seeing more than I think I normally would be seeing. But this deal going down, this is also, the timing is incredible, because you go through your feed and you're like, wait, this isn't how Twitter was before, and so you're seeing this constantly, people just berating people that have been trying to hold Israel accountable. And by the way, you see people getting elevated that you never saw before. People like, and I'm going to name a name because I used to like this alignment on the medical freedom movement. So people like Naomi Wolf, she was very big on the medical freedom movement. But now all of a sudden, she's coming up in every one of my feeds, just doing this bashing on Palestine protesters, just Zionism every day. And I think that as we're seeing the results of the algorithm working against us, they're seeing the results of an improved algorithm. So it's so off balance. I don't know what the next step's going to be, but we know that this TikTok deal, this is pretty much locked. Larry Ellison, owner of Oracle, has this thing locked. This is a big win for Netanyahu, and he brags about this. Says we got TikTok, and Twitter is next.
Oh yeah, and they've got enough of Twitter right now, but we know Instagram and Facebook, that's long been done.
Yeah.
TikTok is done. But here's the sad part about it. There's nothing worse than a person who cheats and still can't win because they're cheating. They're doing everything they can to game the system, to fill the airwaves with propaganda, and people are still turning away from them. That's how bad they are. They are. And now, what is it? Ellison has CB, Paramount, and all that kind of stuff. The only thing that's going to happen is CBS News is going to come on, and they're going to be today or tonight on CBS News. Israel, wonderful. Netanyahu, good. Hamas, bad. And more at 11. And people are just going to not watch it. People are going to be like, you got to be kidding me. I'm not watching this crap. So you know what? You can put out all the propaganda you want. But if it's stuff that people don't like, they're not going to watch it. So he's going to have these channels. He's going to put out this Zionist propaganda, and people are just not going to watch it.
Well, there's something to be said here about the different platforms. So, okay, I'm with you on, the CNN and CBS ownership. And we know this, we know that Ellison with his son, this was this Skydance merger. So his son, David, and just getting all these properties. There's a lot of properties here. We're talking CBS, CNN, MTV, Nickelodeon, BET. We talk about Paramount Plus. I'd say out of all those, and not to mention, we mentioned, TikTok, where we all, and Twitter, where we're all trying to, have our communication. But out of all those examples, I would say the one that's the most scary or dangerous is the Paramount Plus. And let me explain. When you use and this goes back to Hollywood and the story, we call it Ziowood, the storytelling device, where you're luring audiences in with actors they like, your emotions are being used to sit down, buy a box of popcorn, sit there and watch the next Jessica Chastain film, where people didn't realize at the time. Go back to Jessica Chastain and the I think it was a 2012 film she did, where it was to rewrite the story of how they captured bin Laden and to champion this idea that it was done in a heroic way, and it was all CIA propaganda. Well, now you got Jessica Chastain in an Apple TV show, or it's a film that Apple TV is going to be putting out soon. It's called The Savant, and it's another. She's just trying to basically work with the ADL, and the ADL's the good guys, and they're trying to figure out how to infiltrate a hate group. So they got that going on Apple. But back to Paramount, the one that just came out, this October 7th series. This is Larry Ellison owning 80% of Paramount Plus. This is a big problem. So you got this show called Red Alert, and they're literally packaging it as it's a 4-episode miniseries. It dropped on October 7th, and it relives the Hamas massacre horrors of October 7th. And I guarantee you there is no mention of the Hannibal Directive in that. But Garland, to your point, people don't want to watch garbage being fed to them by, Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper. That's harder for them to get away with. But now you got this device, and it's hey, scroll through your feed, scroll through your options, and watch this next. Watch what's coming up next on Paramount. And people are going to be sucked in to the storytelling and the emotional triggers of those productions. And that's, I think, still a very useful device for the Zionists and the CIA, and that mechanism to manufacture consent for our next illegal occupation or invasion.
Yeah, I just think that the horses left the barn. I think they're too late. I think they're going to try to save Zionism, and I think it's too late. I think it's done. I think it is, people know what it is, and they're going to try, and I think they're going to have little success. They waited till people aren't angry over Israel or Zionism. People hate Israel and Zionism. People hate Zionism. You know what I mean? People around the world see Zionism, the ideology of Zionism, in the same way that they saw the ideology of, Nazism, and the way they see this fascist, brutal, genocidal ideology. And I think that I don't think there's a way to put that back, genie back in the bottle. That's my opinion. That now I know what they're going to try, and they may feel they're going to have some success. They may have a little bit of success, but where they are now, I think it's too late. The polls say just people are fed up here, and they waited, and now I think there's going to be. I think I put it like this. It's like you take out a loan, and they're going to have to pay a price for this. I think. I don't know. We will see.
Maybe the rest of the world's just a little ahead of us. I hope you're right, Garland. I hope we can get there, but I do feel we're going to be last to figure it out as a nation. I think we're the most propagandized people on the planet. We know this. We're the only ones that don't realize they're being propagandized. A lot of other countries, they know what they can recognize state media versus non. They know. We just don't have that ability, and we don't, especially when we idolize these celebrities. Isn't that part really is the most annoying part, I think, Garland, because you talk about you can't put it back in the bottle. Well, how do you separate the people that you've grown to love over the years? Your David Schwimmers and Jennifer Aniston's. You grew up with friends. How could these be horrible people? Well, yeah, you listen to David Schwimmer talk about how we have to protect Israel at all costs. I mean, he's doing it right now, Garland. I mean, so these are the people we grew up with. And so we're the last that's going to figure this out. The polls can reflect that we're hating Israel and we're hating what they did. But ultimately, are we going to detach ourselves? Are we going to end the relationships we have with the people we've idolized our whole lives? Are we going to end those relationships? I don't know. I think we might be last to do it if we do it at all.
Let's talk about something that's going on in California. Good old wannabe President Gavin Newsom. He's, of all things, he was in a podcast and they asked him about AIPAC, and he seems to have had the blue screen of death in between his ears.
I think that Gavin Newsom thinks he's better at being slick than he actually is. He has this unfortunate problem. Unfortunate for him. Good for us. We get to see this every time he gets into a mess. He starts fidgeting his body. He starts sway. Right, we see the sways. Remember the LA fires? We're seeing these sways. So he gets asked this direct question by the podcaster who says, "What is your stance with AIPAC? How do you tell us?" Because he's saying, "I'm not going to vote for anyone who takes $1 from AIPAC. That's just how it is." And Gavin Newsom looks back and says, "Well, that's an interesting question. That's interesting." And he just keeps repeating, "That's interesting," as he's fidgeting. Let's not forget the fidgeting. But I think he thinks he was selling it because he didn't actually say anything. That's the problem with this being confronted. He didn't say anything, but by not saying anything, he's saying everything. Because if you didn't have any association with AIPAC, you could tell the viewers, you could tell the listeners, you don't have any association with it. That's all you have to say. But instead, he pretends, I just never been asked that question. Like in 4 years, it's never come up. You're the first. He literally said, "You're the first person to ask me that." So we know that that's a lie. And it's again another example of not just a politician like Gavin Newsom giving himself away with all of those body signals and stuttering, but the fact that he believes that he pulled it off. And that's the narcissism that comes with the territory when you get into a position like that, and he thinks he's this slick guy, Hollywood guy that can pull it off. But he didn't pull it off at all. I think he woke up a lot more people to the problem.
Well, and it's like the old create a conundrum for a person. You'd make a good investigator. I used to teach investigations, and one of the things you do when you ask questions is not for the answer. As an example, hey, you where were you at 4:30 with a murder? I was at the movies. What time did the movies let out? 4:45. Did you see that big accident like right in front of the movie theater? Now, I'm asking you that. I'm the investigator. Did you see the big accident? And now here's what you know. Oh shit. If I say yes, he might say there was no big accident. And I'm caught. If I say, yes, I saw the accident and it was good, whatever. If I say no, maybe there was. If I say yes, maybe there wasn't, right? So when I say, what time to get out of the movie? 4:45. Oh, did you see that big accident? They were landing helicopters and everything. I'm not looking for you to say yes or no. I'm looking for you to hesitate.
Yeah. You're looking for me to say, interesting.
Oh, it's an interesting question, huh? Yeah. Helicopters are great. I flew in a helicopter once and I came, the movie. Right. Because if you came out, this is what a person would say. Did you see that helicopter, that big accident at 4:45? I came out at 4:45. I didn't see no accident.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? There was no, I got walked out at 5:45. Traffic was perfect. I got in my car. I drove out. I saw nothing.
Yeah.
That's the person who's telling you the truth.
Yeah.
But the person who wasn't there and doesn't know, it's like you said, hey, did you see that accident? That's an interesting question. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm not saying. It doesn't show that you're lying. It shows an attempt at deception.
Yep.
Maybe you don't want to answer at all. That's attempting to deceive me. You don't want to answer the question, and you got it. When the guy asked them about, what do you think about the APAC? I'll answer 5 other questions than that. APAC's interesting. Nobody asked you about it. Who asked you the question before? Get out of here. Let's don't go down that rabbit hole. So he was caught. What he was caught doing was deceiving, misleading, obfuscating. Why? Because whatever the answer was, he didn't want to tell you. That's all we know. Whatever the actual answer was, he didn't feel comfortable giving the actual answer. So he started looking for a door to run out. Oh, can we talk about anything else but this? He was looking for a door to run out, like Scooby-Doo, running through the doors and still running into each other. So yeah, you got it. He was 100% caught. And continue going.
You know who would agree with you on that assessment? Who's also seems to also have these skills that you have there, Garland, is Trump himself, because he just told us about his own inquiry that he did to Mary Madelson. He told everybody. He said, I asked her about who do you love more, the United States or Israel? And she just refused to answer. And then he indicates, well, that might mean it might be Israel. And then he laughed. But like, there you go. You're not answering the question. Why wouldn't you say the United States? That doesn't make any sense. Well, because you don't want to answer the question. So he knows this style of questioning as well, and what you can find out from someone when they don't say anything.
Well, yeah, and he also went on to talk about how close they were and how she ran through the White House and she asked him for things and he did things for her. So if we put those together, what you're telling us is one of your top donors is a person who is whose fealty is to Zionism, not the United States, and that they tell you what to do all the time and you listen to them, which means whether or not your fealty to the United States or Israel is irrelevant. The people who are telling you what to do are Israel firsters, which makes you, by proxy, an Israel firster. He just admitted, he said, well, you know what else he admitted? I ain't in charge. I'm a proxy power. I'm a puppet for these people. They tell me what to do and I laugh and do it.
You know, can we remind people that this is what people voted for Trump for the first time? Let's not forget Trump, who was outside of Washington, how he ran against all the Republicans in 2015. And he said, I know the system is rigged. And the moderators at the debate said, how can you say that, Mr. Trump? You can't just say the system is rigged like that. He goes, I know it's rigged because I am also a willing participant in it, and it's rigged for me too. So this is why people voted for him, because he was going to, in these moments, be transparent about how corrupt the system is. And so every once in a while you get these moments. These are important moments. This is the distinction. If you want one distinction between him and Biden or him and Kamala, it's this. This is when he brags about the dysfunction of a system in which he actually doesn't have any power. And the entire thing is captured by Israel. He literally told us this. And thought it was funny. So there's moments like this. And this reminds people, yes, how refreshing. A guy who every once in a while tells us exactly how corrupt everything is. And he's also admitting that he's guilty of it too.
What's interesting is, so Trump's on right now. That's why I kept glancing over, seeing what I could get. He's with the FBI and he's doing some press conference or something. And I think what they're doing is they're letting some more stuff out about Obama and Russiagate and all that. Now, here's the thing. You're not telling me. Go ahead, go after whatever. You're not telling me everything I knew. We've been people like me and you from the very beginning said, the Russiagate, it's a fraud. It's an intel operation. We saw through it from the very beginning. We always see through this crap. Yeah. But here's my point. You can go after Obama for manufacturing the Russia hoax and be right. But you're also the guy who said George Bush lied us into a war with Iraq, and you were right. And now you're telling us you're going after Venezuela for drugs when we damn good and well know, number one, the CIA is the biggest drug runner in the world, and number two, you're going after them for their stinking oil. So you're doing the George W. Bush lie this time. The only difference is instead of weapons of mass destruction, you're using drugs. It's all a fraud. So when he goes after Obama, I'd say, sure, I knew the Russiagate was a fraud, and I knew it was criminal. It was all a criminal. If you go after these other presidents, I say, yes, I agree, there were a bunch of crooks. And now you're a crook doing the same damn thing, Donald Trump. Now you're trying to lie us into war after war. We know good and well that you're going after Iran for Zionism, that it has nothing to do with nuclear war, weapons and all that crap. So, that's the thing that kills me. Trump can come out and accuse other presidents of doing things that we know are right when he says it, but it doesn't absolve him of doing the same damn thing in just maybe a little different way.
And that goes back to the idea that he's telling us out loud that he's not actually in charge. And I know people say, okay, when you say someone else is in charge of him, that's giving him cover, that's excusing his behavior, that's almost making him a victim. We're not saying in any way, shape, or form that Trump is a victim. We're saying that there's a mechanism in place in which every 4 years you got to put somebody's face in the camera to justify these contradictions and convince at least half the country that it makes any sense. And so he's doing the same thing that George W. did. He's doing the same thing that Obama did. He's doing the same thing that Biden did. It's the same thing over and over. He's just extra loud about it. He's just extra, just kind of bullyish about it, right? And he always goes off on these tangents, and it sounds so much more crude and so much more disgusting. But what is the difference between Trump's policy against Venezuela and any other president before him? I mean, it's the same policy. It's no different. But he's just bragging and boasting about it. We got the drug guy. We got it. Yeah, just that language and that rawness to it. But it's just, and he tells us he's not even in charge. So there's a system in place for American imperialism. There's a system in place for the Greater Israel Project and Zionism, and it's just rotating that face every 4 years to give us someone else to sell it to at least half the country to.
Yeah, here's an example. I'm looking. Breaking news. Breakthrough. FBI Director Kash Patel reveals groundbreaking rescue of 5,400 child victims from predators. If that were true, I don't know if it is or not. That would be a good thing. If it were true, I don't trust them. But let's just say a minute, for the sake of argument, that they are cracking down on child predators, blah, 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 blah. Could we get we lost Matt. Oh, no, there he is.
Okay.
Could we get a list of the child predators in the Epstein case and perhaps charge them? I mean, if you're so upset with child predators, perhaps we could look at the Epstein list and perhaps we could figure out why women came forward to the FBI and why they have 200 or 220 interviews of women who came forward. I was underage and I was used by Epstein and I was forced or coaxed into having sex with these powerful men. 220 interviews. All you got to do is read the names off the interviews. Why aren't you going to do an investigation on every one of those guys? Why aren't you charging any of them with crimes? Some of them are in other countries. Why aren't you doing extradition orders? I'm supposed to believe that you're out to stop child predators. And when we say, can we get a list of the child predators? Oh, there is no list. Man, we don't know what you're talking about. Epstein never existed. We never heard the name before.
Well, powerful people don't do horrible stuff, Garland. Only low-end people with mental illness and sociopathic behavior and schizophrenia and again, back to Hollywood, they'll remind us, go to Netflix right now, watch the Monster series. They're gonna tell you Ed Gein is uniquely schizophrenic, and he's the only one that does horrible stuff, along with a few other handful of serial killers like Ted Bundy. And so this is, if Kash Patel is reporting on these kids right now, I guarantee you it's the conditioning of the American citizen's mind that when we find these kids, and I think they exist, I think that the story is going to be told to us that they were abducted by people who aren't in power, because those are the only people that do heinous things. We were told this by Hollywood. They told us this. We never, ever see powerful people with a knock on their door, you're going to effing jail. Never going to happen. Every once in a while, there's one who takes one little fall for them, right? You got your Harvey Weinstein, or, you got your, well, P. Diddy, not really at all, right? You got that one little You got your Bernie Madoff. Just throw one guy under the bus. But remember, the people that run this country, they're on the up and up. They must be good people because they made billions of dollars, and they're just doing what they have to do to keep us all together. And watch out for the next Jeffrey Dahmer. Watch out for the next Ed Gein. That's the guy you got to be careful of. That's the guy that's going to kidnap your kid. And that's the story.
Yeah, and let me do this. Hold on. Let me give you something real quick about Diddy. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, here we go. And I'll tell you what the lawsuit was about. I mean, excuse me, what Diddy was about. And this is not to defend Diddy. I ain't saying that he didn't do it. I'm saying he did what a lot of other people did. But let me show you something real quick. Let me show you something. This. Sean Diddy settles legal dispute with liquor company Diageo, right? This is January 16, 2024. About 7 months. He sued liquor company Diageo. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, right? Okay. In a joint statement, withdrawal of his allegations, blah, blah, blah. So he helped grow. So bottom line, he joined them. He grew the brand sales by 2,000%. Blah blah blah. And so he sued him. Right. My understanding is it looks like he got around 200 million, as far as I can understand. So in January, he settles. Right. Okay. Watch this. Now, keep in mind, this is like a multi-billion, one of the biggest liquor companies in the world. Right. So he sues them. They're British. He settles in January. Watch this. Diddy's home raided by Homeland Security. What we know, March 26, 2024, right? So there we go. He raided and blah, blah, blah. Isn't it interesting? Okay, so what happens with Diddy? So supposedly Diddy was doing this for years and years and years and years and years. He files a lawsuit. He settles a lawsuit with this multi-billion-dollar company in January, right? February, March, somewhere around 60 days. You know, back in my old day, if we wanted to write up, you know, all the paperwork and do everything we needed and go to court and get the proper paperwork we needed to raid somebody's house and do the investigation and nab them, take about 60 days. About 60 days. That tells me that as soon as that lawsuit was opened, it was signed, as soon as it was settled, the FBI opened an investigation, wrote up the lawsuit, went to court, applied for the warrants, did all of that. When that lawsuit was settled, they opened a case against him, boom, and all of this. They completely did everything they could to destroy him. And I'm not defending him. I'm not saying he's not wrong and dirty and everything. I'm saying that the impetus for that was he sued a multi-billion-dollar international company. And they said, you didn't do that shit. Watch this. We'll put you in your place. You're little. We're the big guys. You're a little guy. When you sue us, you're going to go down. And now what is he going to do? My understanding, he's going to do like 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like time served.
Yep.
That he got 4 years, that you got all of these things in the government, I mean, in prison that you can apply for, that he fits all of them. And when it's all said and done, he's going to get like 8 months, but he's already served like 8 months or more. So in the end, when all of this says, he's not going to spend a day in jail. If he does, it'll be a couple of weeks or something. So ultimately, this was A, we're going to put you in your place. B, we're going to make sure that everybody out here knows you don't come after the big guys. You got your 200 million, but you destroyed them. You know, there is a, think about this. There's a documentary out about him. It just destroys Diddy. It just takes him apart, implies all kind of things. That implies that his wife died of a heart attack or something. It implies that he had something to do with it. But then they say, but her family says they didn't, and she died of some kind of heart trouble, right? Guess where this thing was made? England. Why the hell is there a British documentary that just destroys Diddy? I'm not defending him saying he's a good guy. I'm saying he's doing something terrible. But they would have never touched him. But when he did that lawsuit, that's why they took him out. That's what it's about. That they're not out there. And now who took him out? The FBI. The FBI is nothing but the secret police. They're the Stasi. They're used by the rich and powerful. They're used by the government. Why is it? Then they went to get Roger Stone, when they went to get Medea Benjamin, when they went to get what's his name? Max Blumenthal, when they went after the Uhuru, remember the African People's Socialist Party, for all of these people, they sent SWAT teams with helicopters, drones, flashbangs for Medea Benjamin, right? They surrounded their houses with SWAT teams, Medea Benjamin, Max Blumenthal, and they claimed that Max Blumenthal or pushed somebody or some such crap that had to be dropped. But when they go to John Bolton's house, they don't, none of that. Right, when they go to the homes of these powerful people, they don't do any of that. They only do that for the schlemazels who are outside of the system. So it's interesting. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I think I think that's a great point about the timing, because we always look at timing. Why P. Diddy in March of 2024? Why? And that makes total sense. Waiting for the end of that lawsuit, and then it's kind of sending a message. But there's also something to the fact that I believe it was always going to go this way for P. Diddy anyway. This was just the time to do it. And you are sending a message with doing it. But here's what's also accomplished by them doing this to him is they're conditioning the public more. And again, I go back to the Hollywood area where we get trained to think of this one bad apple formula. And so they tell this story. It's all theater. They tell this story that we figured it out. Somebody gave us a tip, and it was just enough to go in and get him. And now we're prosecuting him. And these are the crimes that stuck. And this is the punishment. And that's it. And if you ask the average American citizen right now about P. Diddy, they'll probably tell you in a matter of words that, yeah, he was a kind of a bad guy. They did, the justice system works. It works well. And whatever he's serving, he's going to deserve that. He might deserve a little more. But what we know is there was no child sex trafficking charge going through. There was no. So the average American is going to tell you, well, they looked into it and they didn't find anything more than what they're giving. So again, it's the bad apple formula of pin it on him, protect the people in power. Everybody else that was tied to those white parties, they're never going to look into any of that. And it keeps this theater going, right? That the people think that P. Diddy just did this thing that was really weird and nobody knew about it until they knew about it. No, they not only they know about it, they were all in on it. They were all in on it. Yeah.
Well, look at this. Sean Diddy Combs probe team. So now, as they jet in from the U.S., so now the FBI sends people to the UK. Let's look for more victims. Well, Peter, right? And my point is this. Okay, fair enough. He's a bad guy. You're going after him. You're searching for victims. But you have a list of people in the Epstein case who are dealing with, I haven't heard that P. Diddy was charged with underage. He did terrible things. I'm just saying. You got a list of people who said, I was underage, and these people did sexual acts, and I was forced, and blah, 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 blah. Where's that probe team? Where's the search? Where's the, hey, and like the Cash Patel.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Cash Patel, tell us about Diddy. Hey, how about this friggin' Mauser 98? What the hell's up with this? Oh, geez. You're looking at them and you're like, you're giving us bullshit stories left and right. Garbage, crap.
Yeah. But people let it go because they think that the FBI we're all working together, right? We talk about this alternate reality you mentioned earlier in the show, Garland. You talk about wouldn't it be nice if we all were working together? We're not. The FBI pretends. They say, hey guys, anybody have a lead on this picture? We want to figure out who this guy, Tyler Robinson, right? We want to figure out who this guy is. Everybody, go through your social media, figure out, help us out. We're all in this together. And people fall for that. They go, oh, I'm going to put this out. I'm going to put this picture out. I'm helping the FBI. And so, of course, when Cash Patel tells us, hey, we looked at it and there's nothing there, even with that weird, weird look from his eyes. I think he's a little cross-eyed, but he's also got that deer in headlights and the sweat coming down his forehead. But people are, oh, no, isn't that the guy that asked me to share this photo so we could find that Tyler Robinson guy? Well, he's on my side. So I believe that. And there's a lot of people that go along with that garbage, but it's by design. Make us think that we're all working together. We're not working together. We're on our own here.
Yeah, we know that the FBI worked to hide to not just hide the Hunter Biden laptop, but to work with the media outlets to suppress the story. We know that, even though they knew it was true.
Yeah.
That they cooked up a lie about it and said it was a Russian operation, even though they knew it wasn't, because they had it.
Yeah,
We
and
know.
they brag about it. They brag
Yeah.
about it. They say,
Yeah.
job well done. We all work together on this. Washington
Yeah.
Post, New York Times. They're like, yeah, the election was the most important election of our lifetime, and we had to do our part and not confuse the people with real information that might have changed their vote. Well, we know it would have changed their vote. They knew it would have changed their vote, and they're bragging that they stopped people from having information to steer an election in the way they wanted. It's incredible, Garland, that you're not just saying this because you uncovered it. You're saying it because they told us, although we would have uncovered it anyway. But they're telling us that they did it. It's fascinating.
We know that they, for some odd reason, there was just a routine murder of Seth Rich in Washington, D.C., just a robbery where they took nothing. And we know that the FBI, for some weird reason, took that case over, and that they took Seth Rich's electronics, and then they lied and told us for a year they didn't have them. And now they're still fighting in court, so they won't have to release any information. We know who this FBI is. Anytime they're involved in a case, it has to do, they are the secret police. That's all they are. They are like governments, totalitarian governments have like this secret police that grabs people, kills people, disappears. That's what the FBI is. They killed, King and all of these other people. They killed them. They were involved in it. So at any rate, I'm going to get running, man. I got of all things, a chiropractor's appointment.
Well,
for the old back. But thanks a lot, Matt. Tell everybody where they can find you.
The Homeless Left. We're on Rumble. We're also on YouTube. It's not The Homeless Left. That channel got taken down. So you can go to our next channel we started. It's called THL Presents. It's on YouTube. So we're on twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays. We have a good show planned tomorrow. We're on all afternoon, guys. Check us out. The Homeless Left on Rumble.
All right. I'm on my way. But first, because let me tell you, I'm a safe guy. I got to get myself a couple of boosters, 1 or 2 boosters before I go to the chiropractor, and another booster afterwards. And then we'll see what happens. Maybe another one in the morning, because it's safe and effective.
It is. I can't wait to get mine either.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Don't forget, the most important thing you can do is, number 1, you can follow at THL Presents on YouTube. And number 2, you can share this on all your social media platforms. We're out.